we need to create a class called car insurance policy. The class contains 3 fields or 3 data members or 3 instance variables. The first one will hold the policy number. The second will hold the number of annual payments for the policy holder. The third one will be the policy holder's city of residence. Let's go to JGrasp and start writing the class definition. First thing we need to do is to create a file for the class. So click File in New Java, and we start typing public class, and we're going to call it car insurance policy, and it will hold 3 data members. All of them are private, so we type data members as comments, and here we will define the first data member private, and the policy number we will define it as an integer policy number, and also we will define the number of annual payments as integer num payments, and finally we will define the residence city as a string of the placeholder, and we will call it residence city. So this is our initial definition for the class. First we need to save it, so file, save, and we will save it the same name as the class, and we will save it into our project. And now the class is ready for adding more data members. After defining the data fields, it is required to create a constructor that requires parameters for all 3 data members. So this is the constructor that will initialize all data members by supplying the new values through the constructor parameters. Let us write this constructor. So here we will have the constructors. The first constructor, it will be public, and remember that the name of the constructor should be the same name as the class, and we should not specify any return value here. And we need to supply 3 input parameters, one for the policy number, the second for number of payments, the third will be for the city of the placeholder. So integer, we will have the new policy, the second will be the new payments, the third one will be a string, I'm going to call it a new city. So the constructor will simply copy these parameters into the data fields. So we will say policy number equal a new policy, and we will say number of payments equal a new payments, and finally we will say that the residence city is equal to new city. So this is our first constructor. Before we proceed, we would like to make sure that it does not have any errors. So we will compile it and see if there are any errors. Since there are no errors, we will save it and then go to the next part of the question. Next, suppose the agency that sells car insurance policies is in the city of Manama. We need to create a 2-parameter constructor that requires only a policy number and the number of payments. This constructor assigns Manama to residence city. Here now we are back to JGrasp. So simply what I will do, I will copy the first constructor and I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to cancel the new city because this constructor will initialize only the policy and the number of payments. And for the city, we will simply save or store Manama as the name of the residence city. So we have now the second constructor. So let us call here, let us say that the first constructor, and let us call the other one the second constructor. After defining a constructor with two parameters, now we need to define a third constructor that requires only to change the policy number, and it will be supplied as a parameter. So this constructor will put for the number of payments 2, and for the residency city will be Manama. So first we will copy the constructor, and then we will write a comment here. The third constructor, and we will paste. Okay, so we don't need this comment anymore. And here only the change for this constructor for the policy number, and for the number of payments we will simply make it 2 annual payments. So for our example now, so far we have 3 constructors, one with 3 input parameters that initializes all data members. The second initializes only new policy and new payments, and the third one initializes only a new policy. So the default values for number of payments is 2, and the default value for the resident city is Manama. After defining the 3 constructors, it is also required to add a method that is called display that will output all insurance policy data. So let's go to JGrasp and write this method. Now we are in JGrasp. So for output, we know that the method will not return any value, and we are going to call it display. And it does not need any input parameter. Why it does not need any input parameter? Because all the data that this method will print already exist inside the method. So I will copy these data, and then below I will write system.out.println. First we need to print the policy number, followed by colon plus Control V, and this is the policy number. Next, system.out.println the annual number of annual payments, it will be from num payments, and finally the residency city, system.out.println, and we write here residency city, and we take it from residency city. Before we proceed, let us test if there are no errors. We will compile it, simply compile it. Now there are no errors, so the class is defined correctly. We have finished writing the contents of the class. Now is the time to write a short application that demonstrates the constructors as follows. We will create 3 objects. The first object we will create for a policy that we know only the policy number, and we will keep the number of payments and city of residence with their default values. The second object we will create by knowing only the policy number and 4 annual payments, and we will leave city of residence with default value. And the third object will be for a policy number 798 with 12 annual payments, and city of residence is Muharrar. Let's go to JGrasp and write the code for part B. To create a new class, we click File, New, Java, and we will define the class public class car insurance policy demo, and don't forget that we need to write the main method inside. So public static void main string args, and now we start creating the objects for the 3 policies. The first one is car insurance policy, and we will call it policy 1. It will be new car insurance policy, the constructor, with the policy number 123 with only one parameter. I will copy this command and I will paste it to create the second policy, and for the second policy we know the policy number 456 for 4 annual payments. And finally, the third policy, the policy number is given as 798 for 12 annual payments, and the city of residence is Muharraq. By this we have created 3 objects. The first object will call the first constructor, the second object will call the second constructor, and the third object will call the third constructor. Let us first check that it does not. Let us save it. We forgot to save it, so we will save it and we will add it into this project. So now it is saved. We will check that we don't have any errors, so we will compile. So there is an error. It says that policy 1 is okay. Yeah, I need to change the variable for the 3 of them. The reference values, we should change them. Now we compile again so we don't have any errors. We will trace the program by using the canvas. So I will run the canvas. And now for the first object, notice how the compiler or Java code will call the first constructor. So I will go inside the class and see now, since the parameter is integer, so the compiler will understand that it is going to call the constructor that has single integer, which is the first one. So it will put the policy number. So what is the value for the policy number 123? Look here on the left hand side, and it will save it into policy number as the instance variable. And it will put the number of payments 2, which is the default value for number of payments, and it will put Manama as the city of residence, and it will go out. By this now, the system has created an object called policy1. We will drag it into the canvas and see it has the policy number 123, number of payments is 2, and the residence city is Manama. Now for the second object, it will call the second constructor. Why? Because the constructor has 2 parameters. One is integer, the other one is integer. And if we go inside the class, as you will see that it has called the second constructor, number of policy will be saved into policy number, and number of payments will be saved into payments, and the residence city will be Manama. After we finish from creating the object, see, this is the object number 2, and the content will be policy number 456, number of payments 4, and residence city is Manama. Now let's go for the third object. Since the constructor has 3 parameters, integer, integer, and string, so it will match it with the constructor with these parameters, and see, it will call the constructor with the 3 parameters. It will copy the policy, it will copy the number of payments, and it will copy the city of residence. And after we finish, object number 3 is created, and as you can see, it has the policy number 798, number of payments is 2, and the residence city is Muharraq.